The pre-trip inspection. Upon the initial approach to the bus, you're checking the overall condition of the bus. You're looking to see if there's any obvious signs of damage. So the overall condition. You're also checking underneath the bus to see if there's any leaks. And then finally, you're checking to make sure that the bus is not leaning from one side to the other. From here, we're going to move over to the driver's side and undo the hood latch. You're going to reach underneath the latch, flip it up, make sure that it clears the catch. Go over to the passenger side. We're going to do the same thing on the passenger side. Undo the latch, clear the catch. Grab the wheel well right in the middle there, push up, and then just walk it forward so it doesn't fly forward on you. Underneath the hood, first thing we're going to check is the windshield washer fluid. You want to make sure that the windshield washer fluid reservoir is secure, it's not leaking, and there's an adequate amount of windshield washer for your trip. We're going to drop back to the frame. The frame has no cracks or illegal welds, as far as you can see. Slide back on the frame, we're going to come to the shock absorber. The shock absorber is secure, it's not missing any parts, and it's not leaking. Leaks will occur right where the two pieces of the shock absorber come together. From there, we're going to go down to the leaf spring, which is right here. The leaf springs are not cracked, broken, or shifted. The U-bolts, which there's two of them right here, 1 and 2. The U-bolts and the mounts. The mount is right back here, and there's one on the back side, right back here. So the U-bolts and the mounts are secure, not cracked or broken, not missing any parts. We go back up the shock absorber to the frame, move back the frame a little bit, and we come to an air hose. The air hose is secure, it's not leaking. That air hose comes up here to the brake chamber. The brake chamber is secure, it's not leaking, it's not dented. Attached to the front of the brake chamber is the automatic slack adjuster. The automatic slack adjuster is secure, and it's not missing any parts. We're then going to move to the inside of the wheel, and we have drum brakes. The drums themselves are not cracked or pitted. We want to make sure that there's no oil, grease, or debris. And then we're also going to finally check to make sure the linings are not excessively worn. From there, we go back to the frame. We move back on the frame just a little bit from the air hose, and this unit right here, right there, is the ABS controller. The ABS controller is secure, it's not leaking. From there, we move up to the air filter, the big black box here. The air filter is secure, and the air filter takes out solid particles before they're introduced into the engine. From the air filter, we have this big plastic tube right here, and that goes down to the turbo, which is right here. That red unit right there. That's the turbo. The turbo, it's exhaust gas driven, it's secure, and it provides extra power to the engine. From the turbo, we have the exhaust tube. It comes up here to a hose. The hose itself is secure, it's not brittle, it's not collapsed. Then we have a pipe that goes to another hose, which again is secure, it's not collapsed, it's not brittle. On the front of that, this unit right here is the aftercooler. The aftercooler is secure. The aftercooler is designed to cool down the hot exhaust gases that come out of the turbo and cool them down before they actually go back into the engine. From there, we're going to move back behind the pipe, and we come to this unit right here, which is the alternator. The alternator is secure, no exposed wires. It's belt driven. You can see the belt is right there on the front of it, on the pulley. And it produces electricity to charge the batteries. From there, we're going to just drop down a little bit, and this unit right here is the oil filter. The oil filter is secure, it's not leaking. We're then going to go over to the serpentine belt or unibelt. School bus only has one belt on it. The belt is not broken, it's not cracked, it's not frayed, and you want to make sure that there's no more than 3/4 of an inch of play in the belt. So you're actually going to push against the belt, make sure that it doesn't move more than 3/4 of an inch. On the front of the engine, right here, this unit right here, that's the water pump. That's actually the pulley for the water pump, but the water pump is right behind it, right in there. The water pump is secure, it's not leaking, it's belt driven, and it circulates the coolant through the engine. We then jump to the fan. The fan blades themselves are not cracked, not broken, and there's no missing blades. Step back just a little bit, just take an overall look at the engine, make sure that all the hoses are secure, not brittle, not collapsed, not leaking. Make sure there's no exposed wires. Okay, so now we're going to head over to the driver's side. As you come over to the driver's side, the first thing that you see are the wires. There are no exposed wires. From there, we're going to go to the air hoses. Orange, green, yellow. The air hoses are secure. They're not leaking. We're going to drop down and bundle the steering components. We have the steering shaft, which goes to the steering gearbox, which comes down to the pitman arm, and then the drag link, which is right here, this long bar right there. That goes back to the steering knuckle, which then comes back to the steering arm, which is right here, and that's connected to the tie rod, and the tie rod ties the two sides together. So again, we got the steering shaft to the steering gearbox, to the pitman arm, to the drag link, to the steering knuckle, to the steering arm, right there, and the tie rod. They're all secure, not missing any parts, not cracked or broken. And then you'll also want to mention that the steering gearbox is not leaking, since there's power steering fluid that circulates through the steering gearbox. From there, we're going to go drop down to the frame, just like on the other side. It's not cracked, no illegal welds. We're going to skip this unit so that we stay the same way as on the other side, and we're going to come to the shock absorber. The shock absorber is secure, it's not missing any parts, it's not leaking. We drop down to the leaf springs. The leaf springs are not cracked or broken, they're not shifted. The mounts and the U-bolts are secure, not cracked or broken, not missing any parts. Follow the shock absorber back up, move back on the frame a little bit, we come to the air hose again. The air hose is secure, it's not leaking. That goes to the brake chamber, which is secure, not leaking, not dented. On the front of that, we have the ABS controller, the automatic slack adjuster. The automatic slack adjuster is secure, not missing any parts. Again, on this side, we have drum brakes. The drums themselves are not cracked or pitted. There's no oil, grease, or debris, and the linings are not excessively worn. And of course, not that you're actually going to do it, but these little slots, there's one here, and there's one right over here. That's how you would actually see the linings themselves. You have to actually be on the underside of the bus or on the inside of the wheel in order to see that. So the linings are not excessively worn. We come back to the frame, move back a little bit, and we have, again, this unit right here, which is the ABS controller. It's secure, not leaking. We're going to come up. We're going to check the automatic transmission fluid. Okay, it's going to be this T-handle right here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull out the dipstick for the automatic transmission. What you're going to do is you're going to turn it about 1/8 of a turn counterclockwise. You're going to pull it out. Pull it all the way out. It's very long. And then we're going to take a look at the dipstick itself. Now the dipstick has a couple of marks on it. It's got a cold range, which is right down in here. And then it has a hot range. Now as far as the examination goes, all you're going to do is pull the dipstick out to make sure that there's actually transmission fluid on the dipstick. The only way to get a true reading on the automatic transmission fluid is to have the engine running, and it has to be in neutral. So all we're doing is basically checking to make sure there's actually transmission fluid on the dipstick. You're going to take the dipstick, slide it back in. You don't have to wipe it off because we're not actually checking it anyway. We're just checking to make sure that it's there. Put it down in there, line up the pins with the hole right there on the side, and just give it about 1/8 of a turn clockwise so that you can secure it. And then just double check it to make sure that it doesn't come out. From there, we're going to go over to the oil. And the oil is going to be the yellow T handle right there. Same story as the transmission fluid. You're going to go ahead and turn it 1/8 of a turn counterclockwise. You're going to pull it out, only this time we're actually going to wipe it off as it's coming out. And it's probably a little bit hard to see, but on the dipstick there's an add line, which is down here on the right hand side. Then there's a crisscross section, which is basically the safe operating range. And then there's a full line on the left hand side. So we're going to take the dipstick, we're going to slide it back in all the way. We'll go ahead and latch it, unlatch it, pull it out. And we see that it's actually a little bit over full. So we're going to wipe it one more time, try it one more time as getting another reading on it. Stick it in there, latch it, unlatch it, pull it out. And it's full. So now we're going to go ahead and put the dipstick back in. Push it all the way in. Again, line up the slot with the little pins there. Turn it 1/8 of a turn clockwise. Pull it just to make sure that it's secure. So from the oil, we're going to go right back here to the fuel filter. You have a fuel, actually it has two fuel filters. It has one right here, and it's got another one right here, right underneath the T handle for the oil. So fuel filters, there's two of them. They're secure, they're not leaking. From there, we're going to go to the back fuel filter and move back just slightly, and then drop down a little bit. And this unit right down in here, let's see, this one right here, is a high pressure fuel pump. The fuel pump is gear driven, it's secure, it's not leaking, it pumps fuel from the tank into the fuel injectors. From there, we're going to move forward slightly, and right down here there's a little silver unit. That silver unit is the governor. The governor, it's electronic, and what the governor does is it turns on and off the compressor. It's attached to the compressor itself, which is right here. The compressor is secure, it's not leaking, it's gear driven, and it pumps air into the air tanks. From there, we're going to go to the power steering pump. The power steering pump is actually located down in here. You really can't see too much of it. But the power steering pump, it too is gear driven. It's secure, it's not leaking, and it circulates the power steering fluid through the power steering system. From there, we've got a power steering hose, which is right here. The power steering hose is secure, it's not leaking, it's not collapsed. That's connected to the power steering reservoir right here. The power steering reservoir is secure, it's not leaking, and there you can see a minimum cold line, a max cold or a minimum hot section, and then at the very top here is you got max hot. So you just want to make sure that your power steering fluid is somewhere in that range, depending on what the temperature of your engine is. Okay, whether you're cold, whether you're hot. Okay, just make sure you have an adequate amount. From the power steering reservoir, we're going to go to the coolant. The coolant reservoir is right here. It's secure. It's not leaking. Again, you want to make sure that you have an adequate amount inside the reservoir. Right here is the add line. Right here is the max line. So you have to make sure that it's somewhere in that area. From there, what you're going to do is, again, step back, check all your hoses, make sure your hoses are all secure. They're not cracked or brittle or collapsed. They're not leaking. No exposed wires. And then the last thing on this side is you want to make sure that there are no leaks that have not made it to the ground. From here, we're going to go ahead and move to the front of the bus. We're going to close the hood. To close the hood, simply push on the hood, push it all the way down, come over to the driver's side. We're going to latch the latch. To do it, just stick it underneath the catch and then push down. Just make sure that you don't have your fingers underneath the latch down in this area. You want to just push down on it. We're going to head over to the passenger side and secure that latch. So again, we'll just take the latch, put it underneath the catch, and then push down. And then we're going to move over to the door. So at the door, we're checking the door to make sure that the glass is not cracked or broken, and that the rubber seals are intact. The rubber seals around the windows themselves, and the rubber seals of the door, which you're really going to have to see from the inside. You're going to grab the handle's secure, open up the doors. On the inside, we're going to check the handrail. Grab a hold of it, give it a tug, make sure that the handrail is secure. Take a look at the steps, make sure that the steps are not slippery, no obstructions on the steps, they're not excessively filthy. You're then going to step up on each step and do a little bit of bounce. The reason we're bouncing is to check and to see if the steps are rusted out from underneath. On the last step, or the third step, face the front of the bus and look up. Safety equipment. We have a first aid kit. We have a body fluid cleanup kit. We drop down. We have a fire extinguisher. 4 things are required on a fire extinguisher. It must have the inspection tag. It must have a pin. It must be charged. And it must have a hose. So, the fire extinguisher. Inspection tag, pin, it's charged, and it has a hose. We have spare electrical fuses. Behind the driver's seat, we have 3 reflective triangles inside the red box, and a breaker bar or crowbar. Then what we're going to do is we're going to get on the floor here. We're going to turn the key to the on position. So simply turn the key to the on position. Face the back of the bus. You're going to tell the examiner that the red light above the emergency door is operational. That's all we're saying, and that way you remember to make sure that your key is in the on position. When you turn your key to the on position, the red light's going to come on. We're now going to check the seats. We're checking the seats for damage, vandalism, and graffiti. We're also going to be checking the seats to make sure that they're secured to the floor. In order to do that, you simply grab a hold of the barrier or the back side of the seat and give it a tug. So we check to make sure that the seats are secured to the floor, and we're also checking the floor to make sure that the floor is not damaged, it's not excessively filthy, and it's not slippery. So we walk to the back of the bus checking every seat, again, for vandalism, graffiti, damage, and to make sure that it's secured to the floor. You just do that all the way to the back of the bus. When you get to the back of the bus, the first thing that you're going to do is face the emergency exit door, and you're going to grab a hold of that red handle and pull it up. The reason that we're pulling up the red handle is to make sure that, as a minimum, there's an alarm at the driver's area. It's going to enunciate in the back, but it should also enunciate at the front, and it must enunciate at the front as a bare minimum. So you just grab the handle, pull it up. It's a high-pitch tone back here in the back, and it's a constant. And then up front, it's going to be a high-pitched beeping sound. See if the camcorder picks it up. We'll just have to see if the camcorder was able to pick that up. I heard it plain as day. You're then going to face that red light that you told the examiner about, and you're going to take a closer look at the lens cover. Make sure that the lens is not cracked or broken. Face the front of the bus. You'll also point out to the examiner that the dome light lenses are not cracked or broken. All of them. So you just have to say the dome light lenses are not cracked or broken. We're now going to check the backs of the seats, and we're checking the backs of the seats to make sure there's no damage, vandalism, or graffiti. And then we're also going to check the seat bottoms to make sure that they're secured to the frame. In order to check the seats, you want to pull them up from the back side because the seat bottom actually flips forward. So you're going to grab it from the back side and pull up. An easy way to do that as you're walking forward is to simply give the back side of the seat bottom a kick. Like that. And you do that up to the front of the bus. You're checking every seat. You're checking the seat backs. You're checking the seat bottoms. When you come up 3 rows, you're going to take a look up above you, and there's an emergency exit hatch. You want to make sure that that emergency exit hatch is in the latched position. So the emergency exit hatch is in the latched position. If it's turned this way, you simply reach up and put it in the latched mode. You keep on walking forward until you come to the first set of emergency exit windows, which is 4 rows front from the back of the bus. Again, the emergency exit windows must enunciate at least at the driver's area, and you will actually open them up just to make sure that they do indeed open. Again, don't put your fingers behind the actual handle, okay? Just flip it forward, push it open, and close it. Keep walking forward, checking the seat bottoms, the seat backs. Also, tell the examiner, it's a brownie point, that there will always be the same number of emergency exits on each side of the bus. Keep walking forward, checking the seat bottoms, seat backs. At the left side of emergency exit windows, we're going to check those. And then look up again, another emergency exit hatch. Again, just make sure it's in the latched position. Keep walking forward, checking the seat bottoms and the seat backs. You're going to get to the front of the bus, you're going to sit in the seat. First thing that you're going to do is close the door. So simply press the close door button on the steering wheel. So after we close the door, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to reach back, we're going to grab the seat belt. We want to make sure that the seat belt is secure. Pull the seat belt out. And then we're going to actually latch the seat belt. So we take the latch belt, or seat belt, put it in the latch, make sure that it's secure, undo it. You're also checking the seat belt to make sure that it's not cut, frayed, ripped. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to check our mirrors. So we take a look at our mirrors. Make sure that the mirrors are lined up for you. And we're going to go ahead and open this window so we get a clear shot right down the driver's side. Okay, so we have our flat mirror, which gives the true view. We have our convex mirror, also known as the blind spot mirror, which covers the area not covered by the flat mirror. We have the left cross view mirror, the right cross view mirror, and on the right side we have the flat mirror on the right side and the convex mirror on the right side. And then don't forget to mention the mirror right above your head, the interior rear view mirror. And at that point in time you want to mention that it's not cracked or broken and it's secure. Now we're going to come down. If you do need to make mirror adjustments, you're going to use these 2 banks of switches right here. This one, when you push it to the left, will control the flat mirror on the driver's side. And then you use the pan tilt system, which is going to move it up, down, in, out. Middle position is off. Right position is going to do the right flat mirror, up, down, out, and in, and then put it back into the off position. The bottom one controls the blind spot mirrors. That's going to be the driver's side blind spot mirror, up, down, in, out, off. Right side, up, down, out, and in. And then just make sure that it's in the off position. We're now going to check our switches. Always start your switches in the same position and just run through them the same way every time. That way you're not going to miss anything. Also, remember that all heaters and blowers have a low and a high. So you want to pause. You're going to check low first and then high. So we're going to start at the stepwell heater. Low, high, and off. The driver heater, low, high, off. The rear heater, low, high, off. The heated mirror and the entry door, those two switches you can skip. Jump down to the next row. The strobe light we're going to skip because we're going to check that later. The rear dome light. All you do is flip the switch on and look in your mirror, and you'll see that the back two dome lights are illuminated, and now they're off. The next switch is the driver's dome. You flip that on, and up above your left shoulder, driver's side dome light. Turn that switch off. Dome lights. This will cover the other 4 dome lights in the bus. Or the other 4. 2 on that side, 2 on this side. Alright, there's the other one. Okay, turn the dome light switch off. Master switch we'll do later. So from the dome lights, we're going to jump up onto the dashboard. 2 switches for the left fan and the right fan. So the left fan, also known as the food processor, so hopefully it helps you remember that, is low, high, and off. And then the other one, the blender, low, high, and off. From there, you just bring your hand back to the turn signal lever, and what we're going to do is we're going to press in. Pressing in will turn the windshield washer fluid on. You want to press it in and hold it. Windshield wipers start. You want to get the windshield really wet. Once it's really wet, come back. You're going to turn that knob all the way to the low position, then high, and then off. Without taking your hand off that knob, you're going to go ahead and turn on your left turn signal. So you push down. All we're concerned about is the illumination on the dash. So you want to put it into the left turn mode. It locks in place and it illuminates on the dash. Right turn, locks in place and illuminates on the dash. Turn that off. You're then going to pull that lever back to turn on your high beams. Now when you turn your windshield wipers on, actually into the low position or even intermittent or high, whatever, any position, when you physically turn that knob on, the headlights automatically come on. So all we have to do now is pull that lever back like that, and you'll notice that the high beam indicator is on. Pull it back again, they're off. On, off. Our 4-ways. Locks in place, illuminates on the dash. We'll then come around and toot the horn. Look down at your feet. You have 2 pedals. You have the accelerator on the right, brake pedal on the left. They're both secure. Just give them a little tap, showing that they're secure. And the brake pedal must have a rubber pad to help prevent your foot from slipping. So brake pedal must have the rubber pad to prevent your foot from slipping. From there, you're going to follow your leg up to your knee. At your knee, you're going to have an ignition key. We're going to do what's called a safe start. The safe start is when the transmission is in neutral, the park and brake is set. So we're going to take the key and we're going to start the bus. So fire up the bus. The reason that we're firing up the bus is we're going to check our gauges. So you're going to have to point out to the examiner what gauges you have. The first gauge that we have is the DEF level. Okay, it's just like a fuel gauge. DEF stands for diesel exhaust fluid. So you just want to make sure that you mention diesel exhaust fluid, and that's pretty much it. The next one underneath that is the transmission temperature. Trans, meaning transmission. degrees Fahrenheit would be temperature, so transmission temperature. The next one, get out of the glare, is the water temperature. Underneath that is the oil pressure. Next to that, the big dial is going to be your tachometer, then your speedometer. Then you have a voltmeter. Brownie point is that you want to tell the examiner when the bus is not running, it should read 12 volts. When the bus is running, it should read around 14 volts. No matter what, it must be in the blue section. So, not running, 12 volts. When the bus is running, 14, and it must be in the blue. Underneath that is the fuel gauge. And then we have two air tank gauges. The primary, indicated by the number 1 in the little circle there, and the secondary, located by indicated by the number 2 in the circle. So at this point in time now, what we're going to do is we're going to turn on all of our lights. So the first thing we want to do, again, get in the habit of turning them on the same way every time. So on the front dash, down past the turning signal indicator knob or lever, you'll see the 3 switches, okay? It's going to be the first one here. You press all the way up, turns your headlights all the way on. Then you want to turn your 4-ways on. We're going to come over, we're going to turn the strobe light on. We're going to turn the master switch on. And remember, the master switch gives electricity to the 8-way system. After you turn the master switch on, you're going to come over to the steering wheel. On the right hand side, you're going to press up, and it's tough to read it because it's been worn off by people using it all the time. But the top part of that switch says flashers on off. You're going to press that button one time. You're then going to look at the gauge on the dashboard. On the dashboard, you'll see that amber flashers are on. If you hit it a second time, you'll notice that it turns the amber flashers off. So when you hit that button, make sure you hit it one time only, and then double check yourself on the dashboard. So at this point in time, we're now going to head to the back of the bus. When we go to the back of the bus, we're going to stop at the second emergency escape hatch, and we're going to push that open. To push it open, simply on the back side of it, just give it a push up. When you do, if you look, you can see the flash for the strobe light. And if you move a little bit further back, you can actually see the strobe light itself. But you just want to make sure that that's operational. Then you'll go ahead and close it. And we're going to leave it open for ventilation. When you get to the back door, you're going to open up the back door. Without falling out of the bus, you're going to check to make sure that your amber flasher on the driver's side is working, and the amber flasher on the passenger side is working. Just grab a hold of the door, pull it shut, put the handle down. We're now going to walk to the front of the bus. When we head back to the front of the bus, we're not going to sit down, but you will identify to the examiner that that amber flasher indicator is operational on the dashboard. Now we're going to go ahead and open the door. When you open the door, that's going to turn your ambers off and your reds on. So we reach over on the steering wheel, open the door. Again, you're going to mention to the examiner that the red flasher indicator is now illuminated and the amber flasher indicator is off. Make sure that you grab your tire pressure gauge and your tread depth gauge. And we're going to step off the bus and start with the outside. Always start at the top of the bus and work your way back. At the top of the bus, we have clearance lamps. Amber in the front, amber in the middle, red to the rear. They're all operational. The lens covers are not cracked or broken. From there, we're going to bundle. We have a handle, a hood latch, a stirrup, and a mud flap. They're all secure. Our mirrors, they're secure and they're not cracked or broken. Step toward the front of the bus, look back at the lights. We're starting from the middle of the bus and working our way over to the passenger side where we're standing. You just have to mention that the lights are operational, the lens covers are not cracked or broken. We drop down to the windshield. The windshield is not cracked or broken, and the rubber seals are intact. The windshield wiper is secure. Then we drop down to the front tire. The front tire must have a minimum of 4/32 of an inch of tread in 3 different locations. You're going to take your tire tread depth gauge, extend it all the way. It's got a flat side. You want to make sure that you take that flat side, stick it down into the tread. You then twist it so that the little black part, the T, will rest on the top of the tread. You push down, and then take a look at the reading on the numbers. In this case, we have, at that location, 12/32 of an inch. So you're going to extend it, take the flat part, stick it in the next groove, in a different location on the tire, twist it, push down, take a reading, and that has 16/32 of an inch. Extend it again, slide it down into the thread, twist it, push down, and that has 17/32 of an inch. So we're good as far as that. So tread depth, there has to be a minimum of 4/32 of an inch of tread in 3 different locations on the tire. The front tire cannot be retreaded or re-grooved. You're then going to check the sidewall. I'm checking for damage on the sidewall. There is no damage. We go down to the wheel. The wheel is not cracked, no welds. It's not bent or dented. From there we come down to the lug nuts. Now we have the chrome covers on here, so it's really a little difficult to see everything, but we're going to assume that the mechanics have done their job and that the lug nuts are actually secure. So you're going to say, there's 10 lug nuts. The lug nuts are secure. Rust may indicate a loose lug nut. From there, we come down to the hub, which is located right back behind that chrome cover. The hub is not leaking. The valve stem, it has a cap. It's not leaking. We're then going to remove that cap, put it down on the ground. Just make sure that you know where you put it. You're going to grab your tire gauge. You're going to press up against it. Make sure that the end of it is pushed all the way in. Shouldn't be out like that. Make sure it's all the way in. Press up against the valve stem. We're going to take a look at the numbers, and I'm not sure if you can see it. There we go. Right now it's reading at about 120 pounds. It should be 110, so it could be that since it is kind of warm out today, that the pressure is higher. You always want to check your tire pressures when the tires themselves are cold. So 110 on the front. Pick up your cap, put your cap back on the valve stem. Grab your tire pressure gauge. Now we're going to go to the cross view mirror. You're checking to make sure that the cross view mirror is secure. It's not cracked or broken. Drop down to the crossing arm. The crossing arm is deployed. It's secure. Come to the front of the bus. At the front of the bus, the only thing that you have to tell the examiner is that the lights are operational and the lenses are not cracked or broken. Come over to the other side, the cross view mirror here. Check it to make sure that it's secure. It's not cracked or broken. Again, we're going to come over to the front tire on the passenger side now, or driver's side. Again, 4/32 of an inch of tread in 3 different locations on the tire. It cannot be retreaded or re-grooved. There's no damage to the sidewall. The wheel itself is not cracked, no welds, not bent or dented. There's 10 lug nuts. The lug nuts are secure. Rust may indicate a loose lug nut. The hub is not leaking. And the valve stem has a cap. And it's not leaking. Now the examiner may actually have you check the tread depth on this tire and the tire pressure gauge. Or he may not. If he sees that you know how to do it on one tire and one wheel as far as the pressure, he's not going to worry about it. But just be ready to do all the tires. From there, we're going to jump up again Check the lights from the middle of the bus over to the driver's side. They're operational. The lenses are not cracked or broken. Drop down. The windshield is not cracked or broken. The rubber seals are intact. Windshield wiper is secure. We have 2 inspection stickers. We have a state police inspection, which is good for 1 year. And then we have a state inspection, which is good for 6 months. All commercial vehicles must be inspected every 6 months. We're then going to bundle again. We've got the handle, the hood latch, the stirrup, and the mud flap. They're all secure. The mirror is secure, not cracked or broken. Move all the way to the top again. The clearance lamps, amber in the front, amber in the middle, red to the rear. They're operational, not cracked or broken. The glass, the windows, all the way down the bus. They're not cracked or broken. We then drop down to the electrical panel. To open it up, you press on the lock portion of it, the handle will pop out, you open it up. Inside here is your relays, circuit breakers, and fuses, and more circuit breakers, and more relays. So, relays, circuit breakers, and we've got fuses and circuit breakers and relays in there. To reset any of your circuit breakers, if something's not working on your bus, you simply take this little red button and push it in. You'll actually be able to tell if anything was tripped, because when you push it in, it'll actually click and stay in. And there are no exposed wires. So no exposed wires. We're going to close the door, close the handle. We're going to drop down to the battery compartment, same story. We're going to press on the front side of it, the handle will pop out. You open up the battery compartment. There's 5 things that you're looking for in the battery compartment. There's no excessive corrosion, no exposed wires, and no leaks. So you have no excessive corrosion, no exposed wires, and no leaks. You also want to make sure that the batteries are secured to the tray, and that's done with this bar that goes across the top of the batteries. That the batteries are secured to the tray, and that the tray itself is secure, meaning that these handles are both down so that they're back behind this bar here. So no excessive corrosion, no exposed wires, no leaks. The batteries are secured to the tray, and the tray is secure. We'll close the door, secure the latch. Be very careful when you're doing that because of the stop sign being right next to your head. You don't want to come up underneath it because it's going to hurt. From there, we'll talk about the stop arm. The stop arm is deployed, the lights are operational, and the lenses are not cracked or broken on either side. Reflectors, amber in the front, amber in the middle, red to the rear. They're secure. We have a turn signal. The turn signal is operational. The lens is not cracked or broken. Now we're going to drop down underneath the bus. Underneath the bus, we're checking for exhaust leaks. There should be no exhaust leaks. That's your muffler, and it moves back. It runs parallel with your drive shaft. The drive shaft, you want to make sure that the drive shaft is secure. It's right there. It's not bent, and there's no obstructions, meaning there's nothing wrapped around it. The drive shaft goes all the way back to the differential, also known as the pumpkin, which is right there. The differential is not leaking. You then come across to the duals. You want to let the examiner know there's nothing between the duals. And then we're checking the frame to make sure there are no cracks or illegal welds on the frame. So no exhaust leaks. The drive shaft is secure. It's not bent. There's no obstructions. The differential is not leaking. There's nothing between the duals. And the frame is not cracked. No illegal welds. Okay, again, get up. Just be careful of that stop arm. If there's an emergency exit on the inside, there has to be one on the outside. And all emergency exits must have reflective tape. And you can mention it for all 3 of the windows. And when you mention the first one, just say all emergency exits have reflective tape. We move back to the back tires. There's 2 tires. They must have a minimum of 2/32 of an inch of tread in 3 different locations on each tire. They can be retreaded or regrooved, but they cannot have mismatched types or sizes. And a mismatched type would be not Michelin and Firestone or something like that. We're talking about biased versus radial tires. Okay, so 2 32 of an inch of tread in 3 different locations on each tire. They can be retreaded and regrooved, but they cannot be mismatched types or sizes. We're also going to check the wall of the tire, make sure that there's no damage. We're coming down to the rim or the wheel. The wheel is not cracked, it's not broken, not welded, so it's no cracks and welds really. No cracks and welds. It's not bent or dented. We have 10 lug nuts. Lug nuts are secure. Rust may indicate a loose lug nut. The hub is not leaking, which again is behind the cover right there. And then if there's 2 tires, there's 2 valve stems. So you got one right there. It has a cap. And then the other one is right there. And it has a cap. So now we're going past the tires. And now basically you have to think about the front. And we're going to run it basically the same way as we did it up front. The first thing that you talked about basically was the frame. So the frame has no cracks or illegal welds. From there we talked about the shock absorber. There is a shock absorber back there, and you can't even see it from where you're standing. So you want to mention about the shock absorber. The shock absorber is secure. It's not missing any parts. It's not leaking. From there we went to the leaf springs. Well, on the back of the bus there is no leaf spring, but they do have what's called a control arm. And it basically looks like a leaf spring, but it's actually called the control arm. So the control arm is not cracked or broken. It's not missing any parts. The mount, which is right there, is secure. It's not cracked or broken, not missing any parts. On the back side of the control arm, it's attached to an airbag. The airbag is secure. It's not leaking. Again, thinking about up front, we went from the leaf spring, so in this case we're going from the control arm, we're going to the air hose. There is an air hose. There's actually multiple air hoses back here. So we got an air hose, it's secure, it's not leaking. The air hose attached to the brake chamber, which is the big black unit right there. The brake chamber is secure, it's not leaking, it's not dented. Attached to the back side of that, and you can't see it again, is an automatic slack adjuster. The automatic slack adjuster is secure, not missing any parts. We have drum brakes on the back, just like up front. We have drum brakes. The drums themselves are not cracked or pitted. There's no oil, grease, or debris, and the linings are not excessively worn. And then the last thing that we talked about up front was the ABS controller. There is an ABS controller back here. Again, you can't see it. The ABS controller is secure, not leaking. We have a mud flap. The mud flap is secure. We go to the back of the bus. Again, start at the top, work your way down. So at the back of the bus, all the lights are operational. They're not cracked or broken. We have an emergency exit, which means there must be reflective tape around all emergency exits. The glass is not cracked or broken. The rubber seals are intact. The handle, you're actually going to open up the door. So you flip that up all the way, take the door, open it all the way, make sure that it latches in the open position, and it did. And now we're going to check this rubber seals on the door to make sure that they're secure. So you're going to mention that the rubber seals are all intact. To close the door, you simply push it open all the way again. It takes the little pin up top there and allows it to move out of the way so the door can close. Close the door all the way before you try to close the handle. Okay, so close the door all the way, pull the handle down. License plate. The license plate is secure and it's illuminated. In the state of Pennsylvania, we no longer are required to have the tag. So if it's on there, it's on there. But you're not required to have any tag right there on the license plate anymore. You can take them off if you want to. You have 2 red reflectors on the back. There's one right there. There's another one right there. They're secure. We come down to the tailpipe. The standard for the tailpipe is it must be flush or no more than 2 inches from the bumper. The R&J standard, again another brownie point, it's flush no more than 1/2 inch from the bumper. And there you can see. And it must be open.